team of veterans, a squad full of players who are almost retired, nearing the end of their careers. Most had just arrived that year, including the coach. The budget cuts seemed to have hit the squad hard, and the only thing that remained from that great centennial team, the 1001, apparently, were the memories. This is what was being said about Club Cienciano of Cusco in mid-2003. After being chosen as Peru's representative for the Nissan Sudamericana Cup, it seemed there were better options. Cristal was outstanding that year. Bonet Soto, Cheput, Sergio Jr. had won the Apertura playing very well, and the Sudamericana was waiting for them. First, Cienciano, fourth in the tournament, faced Alianza, who finished second, while third-place Bolognese from Tacna was their opponent. It was expected that the top teams would win, setting up a Clásico to decide everything. Cristal Alianza was the most logical, expected, and profitable matchup. But on July 6 in Cusco, during the first leg, a new story began.
Let Cienciano win since they deserve it as a provincial team, not Cristal. Wishing Cienciano all the best.
But this story doesn't start well. Despite the altitude, Cristal dominated and led, but only by 1-0, the most dangerous score. Cienciano reminded them near the end with Carlos Lugo's penalty, sealing a dramatic home draw. It was comforting, but their play was poor. 3 days later, the second leg would be at Celeste and Cristal's home, where they'd be even bigger favorites than in Cusco. To many surprise, the match ended. 1-1 Cienciano qualified for the Copa Sudamericana preliminary round and won the $50,000 prize. That 9th of July at the Alberto Gallardo. After the final whistle, the Cusco team unknowingly laid that first stone that would serve as the foundation to build upon. The greatest story that Peruvian football has ever experienced at the club level. It was difficult to realize then, but that afternoon, Cusco's people would have their smallest celebration, the first of many. And they would also send a threat that they would later carry out without mercy. As visitors, they could be just as dangerous, or even more so, than when playing at home. And so, with this experienced squad averaging 30 years old, after just a few months together and led by a future historic figure, they appeared at the Copa Sudamericana. First, beating Alianza was tough. Cristal dominated the Apertura, but Alianza was just as strong at the start of the Clausura, with names like Farfan Aguirre. This team became champions that year, but struggled in this double match against Cienciano. 0 in Cusco with a 9th-minute goal, and 1-0 in Matute with a 22nd-minute goal. Afterward, no more goals. Journalists and fans were shocked. Cienciano, with a squad that was supposedly much weaker, had managed to knock out 2 big teams that were in great form. At my age, I think I deserve something. Though surprised, the future looked bleak. Now they faced the continent's giants, and their round of 16 opponent would be tough. Just look at the names on that Universidad Católica de Chile squad. National team players and World Cup veterans. In fact, Peru had recently been defeated in the qualifiers by some of the players who are on the field today. Like Mar Gonzalez, soon to sign with Liverpool, or Norambuena, who scored against Peru, this was no ordinary team. That Católica from Chile was intimidating, but Cienciano was at home. And despite the previous speculations and doubts, things were going to go perfectly from the start. As soon as the match began, Juan Carlos Bacelar sent a great pass to Germán Carti, who scored. Less than a minute in, the crowd got what they wanted. The cold shower right at high altitude. Cusqueña made Chile hold back, retreat with a goal from Camarino and a fired-up red team. Proceeding more cautiously seems best, avoiding further risks. Meanwhile, Cienciano chooses to attack aggressively, holding nothing back. At 38 minutes, Julio Garcia moves forward, passes the ball, and forces Alvarez's own goal. The first half ends 2-0, and early in the second half, Santiago Acachiete seals the rout with his header. At 68 minutes, Paulo finishes the tie with an impeccable free kick, making it 4-0. No one expected this. They played well and won the first match with many goals, nearly securing a spot in the next round. The second leg took place on October 2nd, a week later, and Católica suffered the worst kind of deja vu. Cienciano scored early and again with an Alvarez own goal, as in the last match, bringing the aggregate to 5-0, almost impossible to overcome. The Chileans were shocked. Despite quickly equalizing and scoring twice more in the second half, it wasn't enough. Cienciano had advanced to the quarterfinals without struggling in either of their round of 16 matches. Of course, there was reason to celebrate, but when they looked at the bracket and saw their next opponent, those spirits surely became more cautious, because it was none other than Santos from Brazil, who not only were the current champions of the Brasileirão, but had also just played in the Copa Libertadores final just a few months earlier, and they were considered the third biggest club at the time. Thinking today that a South American team could be considered top 3 in the world is a fantasy. But the Santos of 2013 had plenty of reasons to be called that.
Another masterpiece, another brushstroke like an artist with great talent.
The star of the moment and already chosen by the king as his official heir, Robinho. A star who would reach the sky and touch it with one hand, only to end up placing both hands on the bars of a jail cell. But well, that's another story. The next year, they became the world's third best team. He faced the Cusco veterans, who are now out of their comfort zone, far from home and their familiar environment. The plan was clear: dominate at home for a comfortable lead before heading to Cusco, and they executed it. A dominant Santos kept Cienciano pinned back, tried every way to score, and broke through several times, but the ball just wouldn't go in. During the first 41 minutes, Santos hadn't achieved anything until this reckless tackle by Coantico, who was already on a yellow card, gave them something important. The stands celebrate it like a goal, while a sense of relief washes over the Brazilian stars. Do you know what this means? The Peruvian opponent, with 10 scared players visiting Villa Belmiro, with the crowd fired up, making Pelé's home feel intimidating. That pressure would have been overwhelming for any team, even a major European club. In that situation, they would have faced serious trouble. For small Cienciano, it was nearly a death sentence. With no choice, they played with 10, held on, and fell back, just as they had to. Minutes passed, but the ball stubbornly refused to go in. And now I ask, what happens in a match at the 70th minute when you've missed so many goal opportunities?
Goals you don't score, goals they score on you.
It was a long free kick by Juan Carlos Bacelar, a cross into the box that didn't seem very dangerous. It would end up going out or into the hands of Fabio Costa, who had barely even touched it. Rodrigo Saras's presence made Alex nervous, leading to an incredible mistake. Goal, 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 goal. J.N. Coyle. I shouted it, and we all shouted it. In fact, I don't remember ever celebrating a goal like that before, for a team that wasn't even mine. And it wasn't just me who felt that way. Cienciano was gaining attention, and this goal proved it. But glory, when it's not truly earned, both in life and in soccer, can be very short-lived. It took Robinho just 7 minutes to remind everyone that stars stand out for reasons like this. A truly amazing goal that hurt, but it was a reality check. Cienciano didn't deserve to be winning. They hadn't built up play, created, or arrived, but defended well and had some luck. The tie was fairer, but over 10 minutes remained. At that moment, all you could do was grit your teeth, hold the line at the back, and try to build a defensive wall strong enough to contain 11 furious Brazilian football prodigies, charging forward for another goal to take the lead. The attacks kept coming, and all the fan could do was pray, look to the sky, and seek God, or some force that controlled fate, making the improbable possible. Strangely, that's exactly what happened. Santos Fay played that move in an inexplicable way. Hey, how was it? Was he alone? I saw him alone. Alone? Look, no. Ramon was alone. There was nothing else to do. That ball wasn't going in Cienciano. It wasn't going to fall in Brazil that night.
Yes, the 1-1 tie in Brazil between Santos and Cienciano is a great result for the Peruvian team.
There are ties that feel just like a victory, and this was one of them. Because when the whistle blew, the roles were instantly reversed. Santos was no longer the favorite. They had no reason to be, because in 2 weeks they had to go to Cusco. And there, no one could underestimate Cienciano. They didn't know what it was like to lose, to those who would take advantage. They hadn't started as favorites in any of the previous matches, not even on that 29th of October, not even against the national teams. And that day, on that land, on that field, with the cold breeze and the heated stands, they weren't the favorites either, but that's how they felt, and that was all that mattered. Freddie Ternero, the group's strategist and main leader, later revealed in his book, Yes, It Can Be Done, that he planned the first leg in Brazil. 10 versus 10 like in '85 against Argentina, but now it's Moran for Reina and Robinho for Maradona. But for this return match in Cusco, the approach would be completely different. Ternero fielded a much more offensive 11 with Carte and Saraz together up front. The team came out aggressively, pressing the visitors into their own goal, just as they had been in Brazil. In the 10th minute, Julio Garcia, the team's young star, made a brilliant left-footed pass, and Carte scored from outside the box against Fabio Costa. The stadium erupted. But just like in Brazil, the fire was extinguished almost immediately, and through another amazing goal, another individual effort, this time by Lano. Impossible for Ibanez. Only 2 minutes had passed. It's amazing how soccer can shift emotions so drastically and sometimes harshly. How does it do that? A 0-0 isn't the same as a 1-1, and tying isn't the same as being tied. Emotions play an important role, but Cienciano knew how to contain them, manage them, not fall into desperation. The team had previously demonstrated a different kind of emotional intelligence. They didn't fall apart, they didn't start to doubt, they knew the coach's plan and knew how to stick to it. And that's what they did until, in the 34th minute, discipline paid off. A young Carlos Lobaton sends a cross into the box, and as the ball flies in, Carte charges into the 6-yard box, leaps above Alex, and scores an incredible header. And only a madman could celebrate a 1-1 like that in such an uncertain match. But luckily for Cienciano, Sherman was just that. And what didn't happen after that? In that match, Cienciano kept attacking, making the stars feel the altitude. They could have increased the score multiple times. Maldonado had a goal disallowed, Lugo hit the post, and Santos had a chance. But it just wasn't going to happen again. They weren't going to be able to tie this time because this match, to everyone's surprise, was for the Papa. After that match, everything changed. The rumor was true. Cienciano had managed to get among the top 4 in South America. It's important to note that in 2003, the Copa Sudamericana wasn't for second-tier teams like it is now. At that time, the Libertadores was played in the first half of the year and the Sudamericana in the second, so the Libertadores finalists could also participate there. As a result, Cienciano had to face Santos, who had played the Libertadores final against Boca Juniors just 4 months earlier. Interestingly, a team was in the lower bracket awaiting a rematch. But they would suffer an even more tragic fate than Santos, as Atlético Nacional from Colombia surprised everyone by crushing them 5-1 on aggregate. The teams expected to be eliminated in the quarterfinals now had to compete against each other in the semifinals. Both had been underestimated and were now teams to be feared, but Cienciano no longer seemed to be afraid of anything. The confidence that could be felt in the group was impressive. They not only worked at a good tactical level, their emotional composure was magnificent and had been the foundation for forging a united, respected group. The days of gossip and disregard were behind them. Now everyone knew the names by heart. The goal was always well guarded by Ibanez, the captain, As center backs, Acaciete and the Paraguayan Lugo. On the wings, Portilla and Moran, who alternated with Llanos, or sometimes played together. In midfield, Juan Carlos Basalar is always well positioned, playing with La Rosa, or sometimes Cawantico or Martin Garcia, while Julio Garcia, the youngest, takes the attacking midfield role. La Estrella, always with Pablo Maldonado or Carlos Lobaton. Up front, Colombian Rodrigo Saras alternated with Roberto Jolson and Ramon Rodriguez. And, of course, the top scorer of this team, German Cardi, the ostrich, who came in inspired, on fire, and was going to be the big star of this semifinal. Mantle arrived that November 13th in Medellin to face the team that had just put 5 past Boca. Even so, there was no intention of waiting for them or falling back. The Cusco team set out to win in Colombia, and at the 26th minute, Carlos Lugo nearly scored from a free kick. But luck wasn't with them. It would come 3 minutes later when Acabaldo Mosquera made this serious mistake and left the ball in front of the goal to the wrong person, Aquivaldo Carti. He took every chance in that cup, but much of the match remained. National had a strong team and came out aggressively in the second half. They tied the game 5 minutes in and pushed hard, but Cienciano's experience showed. In this situation, they didn't panic, kept their composure, and with 10 minutes left. A recent substitute, Paulo Maldonado, came up with this masterpiece. A truly amazing goal. Well, Pulido, yes, Cienciano. The second leg was a celebration even before it started. The feeling of victory was so strong, you could feel it in the air. Cienciano was so confident that within 40 seconds, they made a few passes and Cardi scored again. An early home goal. One against them at high altitude in less than a minute. It was a tough night for the Colombians. The rest would just be a formality. Nothing too exciting. Now the excitement was in their hands. Everywhere, streets, schools, universities, restaurants, buses, and bars, people talked about nothing else. Cienciano reached an international final, like Universitario in '82 and Cristal in '97. But this time, the excitement felt different. They didn't have enemies, opponents, or fans who wanted to see them lose. We were all with them during those months. We were all Cienciano, damn it.
Everyone comes, damn it! Cienciano. Peru.
How little had the recent qualifying matches mattered? Political crisis, Montesino's trial, minister changes, and suspension of the closing tournament over unpaid fees. The only thing that really mattered was that in December, the enemy to beat would be River Plate, and the first leg would be in a packed, bursting, monumental stadium. Unbearable, but they wouldn't be alone. The match began well, showing the Cusco team's boldness. They never waited in the back or felt like visitors, as if no one told them they were. Just look at the first few minutes of the match. A deliberate handball, reckless tackles against the opponent, escaping harsher punishment. But Cienciano also held strong defensively, pressed up front, won 50-50 balls, and quickly recovered possession. They were focused on scoring and handled the ball well, especially when Julio Garcia had it, and began to see that entering the Argentine box was possible. The team played confidently in all areas as River grew desperate. The poor clearance led to a corner in the 26th minute. Julio Garcia sets up in the corner and delivers a left-footed shot straight to Santiago Acaciete's forehead. The ball hits the post, bounces to the middle, and Juliano Portilla scores. Goal for Cienciano in Argentina. And at least for that moment, they were champions of America. But it was only for that moment. 2 minutes later, Maxi Lopez receives it in the box, turns like this, and crosses it past Ibanez for River's equalizer. And had he felt this bad taste before? In fact, it happened every time they played away. In Chile, they tied it after 7 minutes in Brazil, 6 in Colombia, and now here. Losing the lead again energized rival fans. They entered halftime like that, and at the start of the second half, the worst occurred. Maxi Lopez showed up again, and this time, they had no experience. It was their first time in the tournament facing elimination as losers. Even so, River wasn't satisfied with the 2-1 score. They wanted more, aiming for a big home win to handle the altitude later, as planned. At that moment, maybe the most sensible thing would have been not to take any more risks. There was still a home game left and they had to stay alive, but Cienciano was already too old to change. They never backed down. Instead, they pushed ahead. Playing at home felt like a myth to them, a lie meant to scare or break them. That jersey, that field, that history meant nothing. All those shouts and chants were nothing more than murmurs that seemed to come from the stands. Those names, numbers, and millions they boasted about were just meaningless digits, just marketing and empty talk. On that pitch, it was 11 men against 11, and they were no less than anyone else. Cienciano seemed to have this ingrained in their minds. Meanwhile, River tried to create friction, playing overly hard at times, and right in front of the referee. The plan was to throw Cienciano off their game, but it wasn't working. The guys from Cusco were focused, concentrated. The ones who got distracted were them. In the 66th minute, Cienciano took a quick throw-in, catching everyone off guard, and Llanos sent a perfect cross, which of course Germán Carti was not going to miss. This draw was only a surprising result for those who hadn't seen Cienciano play before. It was a team with heart, with grit, and players with great skill. You couldn't underestimate them. What maybe no one expected was that with 11 minutes left, Juliano Portilla would do something he had never done before in his life, score his second goal of the match. Cienciano then turned the game around in an incredible, crazy match, the most exciting I had seen up to that point. They just had to hold on for 10 more minutes. But maybe that was too much to ask, because if this team had shown any weakness, it was how hard it was for them to hold on to a lead after scoring a goal. So it happened once again. This time, it was Matador Salas, who scored to make it 3-3, sealing a historic match. The 9 days before the second leg dragged on and were filled with bad news. Cienciano couldn't use their stadium for the final because of Federación Internacional de Football Association rules. It needed to hold at least 40,000 fans for a final, but it didn't. So they moved to Arequipa, to the UNSA Stadium. This is very convenient for River, since Cusco is at 3,400 meters and Arequipa at 2,300. Anyone who has visited both cities knows the difference is significant. Cienciano was then losing part of that important advantage that had accompanied them throughout the whole cup, and right for the most important match. In any case, there was no reason not to believe in this group. We all wanted to dream that it could happen that night. Yes, San Juan. Yes, San Juan. Yes, San Juan. I have to pause while writing this to remember that moment clearly. I wore a Peru jersey since I didn't have a Cienciano one, just like everyone at home. At 12, I sit nervously at the head of my parents' bed with them and my 6-year-old sister, facing the small square television. That day, the whole country was paralyzed. We were all Cienciano, and Cienciano was Peru. It didn't matter which team you supported, and even if you didn't like soccer, you understood it. This was more than a match. It was a battle, a war, a fight to the death, the last chapter of a story that could end in tragedy or glory. We would soon find out, as the teams were already taking the field. For Peru, for Peru, for Peru. Cienciano didn't attack as usual, or perhaps couldn't. River quickly took control and began dominating, gaining confidence. As time passed, they looked like the home team, comfortable in Arequipa, and began creating clear chances, like this shot that hits the post, or this one, or even worse, Ibanez's attempt when he comes out for the one-on-one. Cienciano wanted to react, but River wouldn't let them. They controlled the game through possession, rotation, and calmness, and it started to feel like the goal could be close. The end of the first half was the best thing for the Peruvian team. They had to rethink everything. River was playing better. Unfortunately, disaster would strike at the start of the second half when Colleen La Rosa made this serious mistake right in front of the referee. Second yellow and sent off. We were all stunned. Down a man once again, and this time in the final. It felt like a nightmare. I couldn't believe it. But before we could even process that blow, the match had restarted, and surprisingly, Cienciano was playing better. The second half began with a new attitude, and oddly, the expulsion seemed to motivate them even more. Cusco began pressing higher, winning 50-50 balls and building from the back. The Arequipa altitude was affecting River so much that they lost control and productivity, even with an extra player, not to mention stars already on the field, like Mascherano, Gallardo, Salas, and Maxi Lopez. Led by a coach like Pellegrini, who years later would go to Madrid and become champion with City, but that night in Arequipa, even with one more man on the field, he couldn't beat Cienciano, who as the minutes went by, was getting better and better. It was a good moment. Besaler controls the ball too far ahead to shoot, and Rojas arrives late. He gets a yellow card and gives away a free kick one we'll never forget, and it's a free kick for Cienciano. Well,
they get their hopes up.
We've reached the 33rd minute. The match is still 0-0. Free kick for the Peruvian team. Lugo looks for it and takes the shot.
Goal! Goal!
Cienciano's day from the Peruvian team of Lugo. Ladies and gentlemen.
The goal was celebrated throughout the country, in every region, district, neighborhood, and street. A free kick that seemed very far away. A shot at mid-height, and a wall that only left open that small gap where all our dreams would slip through. The excitement was immense, but not greater than the nerves, and everything happened before the end. A dangerous free kick, chaos in the box. Julio Garcia was sent off. Cienciano, reduced to 9 men, defended desperately until the end as the stadium neared eruption. They couldn't wait any longer to say it, to feel it, to shout it out once and for all.
All the people of Cusco, let's sing this song with emotion and pride, dedicating it from the heart to our great Cienciano with tradition. Upa que upa, 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 pa. Cienciano from Cusco is the boss. The Libertadores Cup is done, it's done. They'll win the Sudamericana. Upa que upa, 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 pa. Cienciano, damn it, is the boss. Tomorrow, wherever I go or wherever I am, provincial football will surely triumph. Let's all sing this Cienciano chant with the Red Fury.
A team once criticized that became idolized. A coach who, at the beginning of the year, was putting up flyers to teach classes to kids in the North Cone, and today is an international champion. They first blocked a Crystal Alianza playoff matchup, then prevented a Boca River Recopa final. They began by inspiring Peruvian fans and ultimately won the hearts of all Latin America. And even though there was still one more chapter left in this story, the glory had already been achieved. It was said that they walked on embers and ate maca, that they had made a pact with the Apus and the shamans. But the only truth is that as a group, they were unbeatable both physically and mentally. They never felt inferior, nor defeated, or intimidated. That's why they clashed with the greatest. They faced them directly and defeated them one by one with no overtime, penalties, or favors, thus sealing a unique and historic feat, unprecedented until that day and unrepeatable to this day. On December 19th, Cienciano made us feel more united, more Peruvian, and more believing than ever. And the next morning, something in the air had already changed. People got up early, as always, and went out to the street to continue with their routine, but this time with a different hope living inside. One that made them understand that no matter how difficult and uncertain the road may seem, the challenges, the circumstances, or the opponent in front of them, if you believe in yourself and really set your mind to it, you can do it.
We've made it this far with effort and sacrifice. Nobody gave us anything, and just like when we started, nobody is going to give us anything now. Come on, come on, come on, damn it. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and explore my other stories. You might find another you like.